Checking that certain fields have been completed is a very common requirement, and like many other types of behaviours, there is more than one way to do this. If you check in the Properties panel of most input fields, you will notice the Mandatory Answer checkbox. By checking the box, you can designate the field as mandatory. There is an object marker, an exclamation mark, that signals to you, the designer, that the field is mandatory. Note that the marker is only visible in design mode and will not be seen by the form user. That's why in this form we have the red asterisks to the right of the objects to indicate the mandatory fields. Also note in the object properties that you can specify a callout message that will be displayed, but if you leave this blank, then a default message will be displayed instead. While this method is a quick and easy way to make a field mandatory, we offer a word of caution. This method will only check if a mandatory field has been completed when the form is submitted. If you're building a very simple single page form, then it's a perfectly good option to use. But for a multiple page form, it's not as good, as the form user can get all the way to the final page only to find that they didn't complete a mandatory field on an earlier page. That's not particularly user-friendly. So for multiple page forms, we recommend that you use a behaviour to check for mandatory fields on a page-by-page basis. To do this, we need to use a button and add behaviour to the button is pressed event. Very often, the name of the behaviour command will give a clear indication of which one to use, and for checking mandatory fields, that's certainly the case. We would use the check mandatory command, followed by the show page command, as that will be the required outcome if the mandatory check passes. In the check mandatory properties, simply click the plus button to open the dialog box. Drill down into the page and select the objects that need to be mandatory. You can use the Shift or Control keys in conjunction with a mouse click to select multiple objects at the same time. You can define a specific message that will be displayed in the event that one or more of the mandatory fields has not been completed, or choose to show the default mandatory message. Because of the preset condition of stop execution if check fails, the user will not be able to progress to the next page unless all mandatory fields have been completed. The default setting for the show page command is to show the next page, which in this example is what we need to do, but be aware of the other options available for different scenarios. That's all we need to do to check that the mandatory fields on this first page have been completed before progressing to the next. As we have built a behaviour, we should also check that behaviour by running a preview of the form. It doesn't matter how many times the user clicks the next page button, they won't be able to move to the next page until all mandatory fields are completed.